Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecini. We're presented by The Athletic. Today on the show, Bryce Simon here in the building, and we're going to talk about NBA rookies this preseason. Really, this is just an excuse to break down a whole lot of Victor Wembanyama tape because, my God, was the Victor Wembanyama tape from this weekend so incredibly fun against the Miami Heat. We're going to dive into that and probably talk about it for half an hour. So just be prepared for that. But we're also going to talk about a lot of the other rookies. We're going to talk Scoot. We're going to talk the Thompson twins. I really am excited to talk about Bilal Coulibaly because his defensive tape this weekend against the Charlotte Hornets particularly was unbelievable, I thought. And I am so excited to talk about that. Talk about a few of the other rookies. I guess within that, we'll talk a little bit more about Brandon Miller. We talked about him a little bit on the last episode, or at least I did when I did a solo pod. So that'll be some of it. And then we are going to just start doing a segment at the end of every episode that is called Bryce Asks. Because Bryce has a lot of random questions about basketball theory, be it NBA, be it prospects, be it anything else like that, that will give us a really good jumping off point just to talk like basketball theory in some way. So, Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, I started a Google Doc, Sam, and it was like just random questions for Sam that I want to ask him. And I shared my Google Drive with you, and you found it and you sent it to me like, we should do something with this. And I'm like, I would love that. I think it came from you and Spins did an episode one time where you let Spins just throw questions at you over and over and over. And so I was like, I'm going to save up for when Sam says, Bryce, be ready for this. I'm going to be ready. And it's turned into this. So I'm really excited to ask the one today. We're right in the middle of NFL season. We have people tweeting us right now. The Eagles just got knocked off. Lions fans are going crazy. I'm a huge Chiefs fan. And so it's going to tie into that just a little bit about free agency and the draft. But first, I know we're excited to talk Wemby, Scoot, and yes, Bilal Coulibaly.
I mean, my God, Wemby was unbelievable. Like, again, we're going to talk. I've got clips, Bryce, and I'm so excited to just draw up on these clips and talk about some of the ways the Spurs are using it, just some of the ways they're utilizing him, some of the ways that like he is changing basketball geometry in such a substantial way. Just unbelievably fun stuff from a basketball perspective. And like that Miami game just broke my brain in a lot of ways. Like I didn't think he would be that good this quickly, I guess. And look, like Miami didn't play a lot of their guys. Like you're going to notice no Bam in these clips. Really, it was a lot of Thomas Bryant, a lot of Orlando Robinson, a lot of Haywood Highsmith was actually like the main guy that Wemby was matched up on for a large portion of the game. But yeah, like this is going to be a downhill avalanche here, it seems like, with Vic.
Yeah, and what I love about Vic and where we're at with basketball in 2023 is the way they use him. Like he was just born at the perfect time to not say, oh, we have a 7'4" guy. We're going to stick him in the post. We're only going to use him in ball screen drop coverage. I think they really intend to use him as an off ball roamer against the other team's non shooter and then just let him just swat everything, engulf everything. And that's really creative. I love that we're in that era of basketball where you just don't pigeonhole a guy into that. Now, sometimes I'd like to see Scoot do a little bit more inside the 3-point line on offense, nitpicky stuff, right? That's where we're at with him. But defensively, I just love that there's creativity with what they can do with him. And that's why it's so exciting that you're just going to see this guy be so disruptive because he is so long and the movement, the way he can flip his hips. I'm sure you have, I don't know, maybe you don't have the Jalen Williams clip queued up, but
I
if you
don't.
have,
Yeah.
okay.
Everything's from the Miami game.
Okay, fair enough. But the way he can turn and move and then the recovery ability, it's just insane the way he protects and can recover and make up for any mistakes he makes or his teammates.
Well, I think what people forget about Greg Popovich, and certainly a lot of these clips are going to be defensive, but for the first 21 years of Greg Popovich's career, the Spurs had a top 10 defense in the league. Now, the last 4 or 5 years, it has not been awesome for them defensively. I think their personnel really led to a lot of issues there. But Pop is an unbelievable defensive coach. And I think that has gotten lost a little bit over the course of the last few years. He's going to get so creative in how he uses him. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I think Vic could do a little bit better on defense, and some of the ways that I might try and attack him a little bit early in his career, and some of the things he'll have to clean up. But everything we saw from Vic was unbelievable. Just to kind of give a little, recap, he went 10 for 15 from the field, had 23 points, had 3 blocks, had 4 assists and 4 turnovers, had 4 rebounds in 23 minutes in that game. He was incredible, I thought. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal throughout the entire portion of what we saw.
I kept writing in my notes. I just kept using the word silly. Had just a silly transition Euro step and dunk going full speed. Had another silly in and out between the legs, mid-range step back. Because I don't know what word to use with what this kid can do. And I tweeted it out. He's not a generational player yet. He has to prove that. Anybody who says this kid isn't a generational talent, I'm not sure they've watched him play. There is no doubting. And I think you had it in your big board. He had his own tier, right? In your final big board, maybe 3.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. He's not a tier 1. He is true. Sometimes this stuff is hyperbole. I don't personally think Scoot was a generational talent. I don't know where you stand on that. Maybe we can talk about that when we get to Scoot. But Wemby was absolutely a generational talent, and we're seeing the things he can do offensively. And that's what's crazy, along with how he just changes everything defensively as well. And his teammates don't even know how to throw him the ball yet. The broadcast was talking about it. Throw it 9 feet in the air, throw it up above the defense. And so he's just going to keep getting better.
So let's dive into this a little bit while we're here. Hi, Charles Bassey. I'm going to try and do this well, because shout out, good friend of the program, Nikias Duncan. If you're listening to this on audio, Nikias has hit me a couple of times and said, hey, please just make sure that you yell out the time of when you're watching these clips, so that we can go back and look at these if we're just listening to it on the broadcast. So shout out, Nikias. That's actually fantastic advice, and I really, really appreciate it. So let's just do this. Let's talk about this. This first clip here, this is Vic on offense, 11:23 left in the first quarter. This is their second offensive possession, if I remember correctly. So what you're going to see here is the important thing for me watching him in Summer League, and this is Vic I'm talking about. I didn't love the way he handled the ball, and I actually thought it'd be a little bit easier for guards to come in and dig on his handle, right? So the shiftiness in terms of his hips, just look at how much fucking separation he's going to create here. He's going to go this far out with a crossover, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Look at where the ball is compared to where he started. And then second here, I love the way that he handles this dig. Look, Is that Drew Smith that's coming in?
It's Drew Smith. Yep.
So Drew Smith is coming in. The ball was here. He lifts the ball up high. Keep that ball high, Vic. You have to keep it low when you're dribbling and low when you're attacking off the bounce. But once you pick it up, keep the ball high. Nobody's going to be able to get you, especially if they have to guard you with wings because you're such a mismatch nightmare in terms of your mobility. Keep that thing high and just go ahead and make it almost impossible for these dudes to try and get the ball because you're so big. This is an awesome driving kick. Just super sharp, I thought.
Yeah, that's what's impressive about Wemby is we talk about how he changes the trajectory of the game defensively, but he also can make passes other people simply can't because of where he can put the ball and how he can get it over an on-ball defender or a help defender. And I think he has room to grow. One of my questions I have for you revolves around his assist to turnover ratio, but I do think he sees things. And because he is 7'4" with that wingspan, he is able to put the ball in places that other people simply can't. And I do want to shout out Bassey real fast. I thought Bassey looked good in this game as well. David Parra says it in the comments. I thought he had a solid game. He was in my notes as I was watching this, mostly for Victor, but Bassey ended up in my notes as well. I thought he was solid.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Bassie because a lot of what the Spurs did offensively to get him involved actually involved Bassie a little bit. So here you're going to see Vic. Vic is guarding Haywood Highsmith here. And a lot of the time, Vic is just kind of giving Haywood like space. That's 15 to 25 feet. That's probably 12 feet of space there when you account for the diagonal that he's giving him, because there again, like Bryce said, just kind of letting Vic roam a little bit. So closes out well here. And just look at this. Like, this is at the 10-minute mark of the first quarter, basically. And I love how he's just like cutting off anything for Bryant here, because if Bryant dives and catches this ball, both Chetty and Jeremy Sohan are perfectly in position here. If Bryant catches, they're going to be able to contest, but Vic is also there. I love how under control the closeout is here. I think you're going to see a lot of short closeouts to where against a guy maybe like Damian Lillard, if he gets switched up on him, that could be an issue, but Dame is an issue for everybody. The guys that have real
Pause it right here,
range.
Sam. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
The
No,
only thing I was gonna say is I would like him to stay square on the ball in general, just a little bit more. That's on the perimeter and on the post. But I mean, he's forcing him to his left. And at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter with him. This is probably just a general thing that I always look for. But I felt like he got turned and his hips flipped pretty quick there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because he's 7'4" and can move.
See, like this is where like I don't know how to even react to some of this stuff, because yes, in theory, you want him to stay in front of the ball and like wall up. But this is where him like changing the geometry of basketball in terms of being like a recovery defender is like a really important factor.
Yes.
If he can just turn and run and just block these shots and like get back in front of guys, like I don't know if I can like say no to that. I mean, look, this ball is above the square and he is blocking it. He blocked a shot above the square. He doesn't just change things. Like, yes, he changes things vertically, but he also changes things horizontally with his 8-foot wingspan too. And we'll talk about that throughout these clips. But like, this ball's above the square.
Yeah.
People should not be able to block this shot.
And there's somebody between him and the offensive player. And you're right. Like, that's me saying that is the ultimate coach speak, where I just look for these things. I'm like, oh, his hips are turned. Why doesn't he square up more? And then you have to adjust to it's Victor Wembanyama. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter because, like you said, it's almost better to just what's the offensive players are going to stop trying him eventually, right? They're going to dribble in there and then they're going to do the Steve Nash and just dribble along the baseline and dribble back out. The more and more he puts this on tape, if he did it to Jalen Williams, he's doing it to a lot of players in the NBA. And so it probably just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like this is the prime example in this game of him changing basketball geometrically. This should never get blocked. Like truly, him getting turned around like this and having to recover backward, this ball should never be blocked. And somehow he blocks it. This ball, when he makes contact with it, is above the square. Like, I just like, I don't know how to, I don't know how to react to that. Like he looks out of position a lot of the time and he ends up not out of position. So it's absolutely sick. That led to a shot clock violation. So this one here, we're going to talk a little bit about how they're getting him the ball now, right? So what this ends up being, they kind of run to get into like a Chicago set, a Zoom set, whatever you want to call it, right? I believe that was that Chetty that had the ball to start?
Jeremy started with the ball, right? And then just
Jeremy
cut over
started with the ball.
and then
right.
just cut it. They brought Vassell off a screen, pass to, is that Bassie? No.
Yep, yes. That's right. It's Bassie.
And then Jeremy passes and cuts over the top.
So this is your first part here. You're going to see Vassell come through here to the corner. And then you're going to see Sohan come around. Bassi come here to the top of the key. Sohan is going to throw the ball to Bassi right here. And then run through to the wing. And he's going to set a screen here, or he's going to set like a ghost kind of thing, it looks like. And then Wemby is going to come up. And it's essentially going to be like a Chicago or a zoom action for a dribble handoff for Wemby, whatever you want to call it, right? You know, there are a lot of different names for it. So let's hit play. He's going to come through. It's like not quite a traditional like zoom Chicago, whatever you want to call
It's
it.
more of a pass and follow than true DHO, but it's the same idea.
Yeah. And like typically in those actions, you would have Sohan actually come down and set a pin down. Or set a down screen, really, as opposed to running through the play. This is essentially a DHO. Like that's, you know, it's a pass and follow. You're right, but it's essentially a DHO, and he's just getting into the middle here. And this is going to be something that you're going to see a lot of for Vic this year, is my bet. You're going to see him end up in this corner set to start. And then they're going to run him off of screens to try and get him loose. Which, by the way, again, Victor Wembanyama is 7'5". Like, imagine running actions for somebody who's 7'5" like this. And I'm going to let the next one play through because that happened at 9:40 in the first. This next one's going to come at 8 minutes left in the first. And what you're going to see here again, same kind of deal, right? So Bassi, look at Bassi communicating here. Bassi is telling Chetty, run through here. I can't remember if Chetty sets a screen or if he just like goes and filters through to the opposite corner. Bassi is going to go. He's going to be here. Wemby is going to come up again. But instead of what they did last time, you're going to see a bit of a counter here. So a DHO, but Wemby rejects to get to the empty side of the court, and he misses this shot. Bassi gets the offensive rebound, so it ends up in a bucket. But because of his ability, this is basically a counter to this play. They're basically trying to run all sorts of empty side actions, was the big thing for me when watching tape in terms of them trying to get him the ball. They want Vic in empty side actions, essentially, where he can create, you can force help, and he can either pass or he can shoot over the top and score. I love them getting him the ball in space. That is the big thing for me.
And on the move with what is sort of an advantage already, right? Like he's not having that first clip was great, right? He squared his man up, he made the crossover, but the handle is going to be tall and have some room to grow. In these actions, we're getting him an advantage as he catches to do whatever he wants. And then on this next one, like you said, he misses, but because he has the gravity he does, Bassi essentially gets a wide open offensive rebound putback. And that's what great players create, is they create other opportunities for guys because the defense is so locked in on what Wemby's doing.
Yeah. And because this, if you notice in the first one here in this set of basically complementary actions, in the first one, Sohan, it's not an empty. Sohan is drifting up from here up to the wing again, right? To try and create an outlet pass for a spot up opportunity while Bassi dives to the rim. In this second one here,
that's also not an easy shot to make when you stop all your momentum, like what he did there. I know it looks easy, but those jump shots are way easier when you 1-2 right into him off the dribble. When you come to a stop and lose all your momentum, those ones are harder to make.
100%. So this is the second one here. Notice the difference with Chetty, instead of coming back up for the outlet on the same side, Chetty filters all the way through, and you're just going to see that Wemby is going to have oceans of space here, right? Like this is a lot of space to attack. This is a ton of space for Thomas Bryant to potentially have to cover. Like in theory, you could have help from this. This is essentially like a tagger here.
Yep.
You could have some help from the tagger, and then Bryant could end up being able to reattach himself to Bassie if Wemby was to go down baseline and drive baseline. But if you do that, Wemby's going to be able to hit this kick out to Chetty here, because again, the way that his height changes basketball is he can make those kickouts super high to his teammates, and then you're in rotation, and then like that ends up essentially being like a pseudo X out where he has to go here, and then really it wouldn't even be an X out, like you just filter down and help down basically at that point, and then you would hope, I would guess, that he could come back out onto the cell. So it really is going to be hard for defenses to deal with all of these counters that he's going to present to them.
Yeah, right there, he makes that pass, and either Chetty gets a shot, one more's it to Jeremy, who then attacks, or if they close out to him, then it's one more to Devin Vassell. And I think we all would agree Devin Vassell is probably knocking down that shot. So anytime you can put the defense in rotation, and these aren't super complex actions, right? We're not just talking about crazy this screen into that screen into this, or just individual creation stuff. You just get a dude that is way taller than everybody else, that can change direction a little bit, that can make a mid-range jump shot, but also can make passes and see them. And it makes it tough on your defense.
Yep. And if you can imagine, like if Jeremy Sohan here learns to shoot.
Yes.
Or if when Wemby really gets good, right? Like this pass is going to be here at some point.
Yep.
Like Wemby is going to be able to jump pass and drill this cross corner kick out, and he's going to be able to do it over the top of everybody.
Yes.
And it's going to be impossible for anybody to really manage, I think. That's what's going to make this so insanely difficult to deal with. Okay, this is going to be a defensive possession now. This is at 57 seconds left in the first quarter. This is just him kind of trying to cover up and take up space. But what I wanted to point out here is what I think on how teams are going to try and take advantage. One of the ways I think they're going to try and take advantage of him is in drop settings on empty side actions, where they have a bigger body that they can throw these little pocket passes to. And then guys like Orlando Robinson, guys like, the name that always comes up in this is Steven Adams, but like Jonas Valanciunas, for instance, I think is somebody that will really cause problems for him. They will go into the body with Vic, right? They'll go into his body and just like push him backward. Like, look at how far when Orlando Robinson makes contact with him, it's like right here. Look at where Vic's feet are. Vic's feet are like right here, right? And then once he makes contact,
backs him up,
and Wemby's feet end up like right here. That doesn't seem like a ton of space, but it's a lot of space for these guys to carve out and be able to shoot. And then what I love about Orlando Robinson here, and again, I feel like we've talked a lot about Orlando Robinson as like a guy that could be really useful for the Heat this year. I love the way he uses the basket as protection, obviously. Like it's just really, really smart to be able to use that basket as protection against the guy with an 8-foot wingspan, and Wemby still almost gets him because of course he does. But yeah. So next up, this is Wemby coming through. He just keeps rescreening, right? Like we're just running, basically 3 guys down low, trying to get to a pick and pop. Pick and pop happens. Cash. Like if you have a drop coverage big that like can't move super well, I don't really know how you guard this.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is, like I said, this is how the game has changed, right? A 7'4" guy. And if you just want to pack and drop, then he's going to step out. And to me, it looks really smooth. I know the numbers haven't always been great, and he still has to really prove it, but I think it looks good. Even if it's not, super high this year, I think it's something a lot of people believe in. And can't really contest it. And then the other thing is, you want to fly at him? We know he can attack a closeout if people want to start flying at him. So it's a really tough, again, simple action that Victor can really make you pay.
Yep, that's right. And they run it on the backside here with this baseline cut, which is also wide open. Like, I love that. And then on top of it, they do a little exchange with Sohan. He's going to come out here. Is that one of the Champagnes, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I think this was a Champagne bowl, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, just these little exchanges where, again, because Trey Jones is coming downhill, I love just having this guy run baseline. I love this little exchange where you don't necessarily know who the low man is, by the way. That's what makes some of these little things a little bit harder to manage, these little backside exchanges. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on as well. Yeah, just all really smart, all really well running offense. But again, this is the piece where it's like, I just don't know how you guard this. And oh, by the way, the reason you run this exchange is because in theory, you're pressuring Duncan Robinson here.
Well,
right?
And originally Highsmith, I think, is supposed to be the rotation guy if they're going to rotate, if somebody's going to rotate in the big, but because they just do the exchange, now it becomes Duncan Robinson. And if you don't have really good communication and reaction and awareness, then you're a little bit late. You're trying to now force your big to close out, and he's not going to get there. Is that right? Yeah. Right now, Highsmith would rotate to Wemby on a pick and pop, but him and Champagnie and Sohan just a little switch, and it seems like nothing, but it changes who the rotation guy is going to be, turns it into Duncan Robinson, whose eyes are elsewhere. And it just that little bit, it is meaningful.
Yeah. It just makes it really, really hard. The guy you're pressuring here is Robinson. You're really forcing Robinson into a tough spot where Robinson is paying attention to this guy here, because he has to pay attention to this guy who's right at the rim. He at least has his eyes on him a little bit. And it's this set, I think, is like kind of unguardable in a real way if you don't have like a switch defender in as a big.
Yeah.
That's what makes this so hard. Like, this is a 241 in the second. I actually don't know how you're supposed to guard this.
I mean, the only thing is you just say, like, we're not going to let Wemby make Jones be a scorer. Just go under the screen and make him make him knock down the shot, or make him.
They go
under the screen anyway.
They go under. Yeah. I mean, it's just hard. It's a hard one. That's a tough set. I love that from Pop. So here, another defensive set. This is just a quick one, just that showcases the marginal advantage that Victor Wembanyama is going to be able to create. Right. And this isn't even one where I'm really going to draw up much, but like, this goes from Vic being out of rebounding position. Thomas Bryant has leverage. Like, he should be able to get this ball. Thomas Bryant, by the way, 6'10", 6'11", 7'5" wingspan, big dude. Right. And Wemby just out high points him.
Yep.
Like, just out high points him because he's 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan.
Thomas Bryant's even being physical there. Like, he's doing everything he can. And I know it's probably a meme or GIF or whatever you call it at this point, but the dunk and Thomas Bryant's looking around like somebody's not supposed to be able to do that to me at my size. And he just can. He
just can. So, and this is the other important piece of this. So yes, he can get this defensive rebound, but more importantly, he can lead the break then, and he can start the break quick. And if you get transition opportunities, that's going to lead to more efficient offense. Like, he is a transition machine because of that. So this one here, Vic is going to bring the ball up. This is the one this is the one where I truly just went, what the fuck do you do? Like,
yes,
I've never seen something like this.
People don't throw lob passes from that angle. You don't trust your guy to go get it.
Not only that, but this is a 7'5" guy bringing the ball up the court. He is 7'5", Bryce. You are running an inverted pick and roll.
With 7'5" and 6'1" or 6'2" or.
Yeah. With Trey Jones, he's just basically going to like ghost screen inverted, like pick and roll here. And Wemby is going to get him the ball. And he sees Thomas go. Like he can see that Thomas Bryant here. He can see Thomas is going to have to at least attach himself to Trey. And what Wemby is seeing already is all this ocean of space here where I can just go and I can dive.
Yeah, this one stood out to me as well, just because again, he brings the ball up and the ball has already left his hands. He's already throwing it. It's like the 3-point miss where he got his own tip back on it. This is actually really nice from Jones as well, to be honest, just the anticipation and just knowing who you are playing with. But people don't throw lobs. Right now, if you sent this screenshot to somebody, they wouldn't say this ends in a lob.
Before Trey even catches the ball here, look at Vic's hand. Vic is, to quote JT O'Sullivan, he's got the mailbox up, right? He's saying, go, like, throw me this ball, right? Throw me this thing. Like, what do you do? What truly? Because he's asking for this while he's behind the 3-point line.
And you can say low man needs to come, but you have Malachi Brandt, who I know he didn't shoot it well in his rookie season, but I think he's going to be a guy that can shoot the ball. And then you have Devin Vassell again on the weak side. So where's the help coming from where you're not giving up a wide open 3 to a guy that can make a wide open 3?
Yes. Yeah. Like this is so insane to me. He's behind the 3-point line, Bryce. Like this is how we describe this play. Like truly, he's asking for this ball before Trey Jones catches this ball. This is like truly, we're just gonna call this play. What the fuck? Like, what are we doing? I get that like people are going to be sick of like hearing about Victor Wembanyama at a certain point, but this is something we have not seen.
Yeah.
This is why. Like Giannis hasn't done this before, I don't think. And if Giannis has done this before, like please send me the clip. Like I would love to see it.
I thought the angle of the pass was something I hadn't seen. Because it's not from the weak side. It's not from the baseline. He passes. It's an old school give and go is what it is, except now you have a 7'5" guy. And then even just kind of the body control and the coordination to catch it from that angle. He makes it look easy. Maybe it is easy for somebody 7'5". As somebody, I don't know if the listeners know, I played Division I basketball. Like I could get up and I could dunk, but trying to catch something from that angle is just awkward. It's one thing when you're coming from the opposite side as where the ball is. He's on the same side as the ball, Sam. I also want to say something. I think the term grab and go gets thrown around with guys a little too often. To me, a real grab and go guy is someone who can grab a rebound, not dribble across half court and then give it to the point guard. It's a guy who can grab a rebound and initiate offense, create opportunities. Wemby is true grab and go is my point. So I think sometimes it gets thrown around a little too loosely. That's not the case with him. He can grab a rebound and then he can create in a grab and go situation.
Yeah. The thing that like really caught me with this is just like the fact they're running 1-5 inverted, like 5-1 inverted ball screens already. And then you're throwing this goddamn pass. Like, come on. Come on. Okay, now here we go. Vic's going to bring the ball up the court. This is the one.
Yeah, this is
at 11:30 in the third quarter,
yep.
Where it's just like, oh yeah, this is curtains. So
in and out between the legs, step. It's so smooth. That's the thing.
And by the way, like the thing that's really sharp about this, again, just from like a schematic perspective, Chetty Osman comes and set this
Yep.
ball screen at what? Like early, you're talking about like an early screen, just like a quick little drag, 32, 34 feet away from the rim,
Yep.
right? Like he's setting that screen 35 feet from the hoop into an empty side action again. Like to speak to what I mentioned earlier, they're trying to get him in all sorts of oceans of space into empty sides of the court. And like, good luck, Jamal Cain. Like, good luck, anybody. Like, I'm saying Jamal Cain here, but like, this is a inside out. Look how low his ball is here to the ground, by the way.
Yep.
Like, his ball is so low to the ground. The ball is below his knee right now as a 7'5" player into a wicked fast crossover. And then the step back and just look at like Jamal Cain does everything right here. Truly does everything right here. Look at where his foot is. And then look at where he gets to on the step back. That's not even like a crazy amount of separation.
I was gonna
You
say,
don't need it when you're 7'5".
When he really needs it, he's going to be able to create even more. The other thing is he's in a little bit of traffic for this jump shot. So
Yeah.
Cain, like you say, Cain actually does, and Cain had a really good game. Just side note, I thought he played really well. And I'm really interested to see which one of these guys ends up being the Miami Heat guy that nobody's talking about that ends up being a really good role player. But there's a guy coming from behind to contest. There's I believe that's Thomas Bryant again in the middle of the lane. So it makes my point. The jump shot looks really smooth in traffic as well, on top of everything else he did.
Yeah. No, this is mind melting to me that this is where we're at with Vic. Next one, sharp closeout from Wembanyama. Why did I grab this one? I grabbed this one because this is something that I can see NBA teams starting to do a little bit with Vic early in his career. So Vic here is guarding Haywood Highsmith. And as we've mentioned throughout the course of this video, the Spurs seem very clearly set on using him more as a roamer so far. And that's great. Like, I think that's the way I would want to utilize him. But a way to counter that is going to be what the Heat do here. So the Heat are basically going to run like a little mini hammer action. So this isn't quite like a screen here. It's more of a slip from Duncan. And then you're just going to baseline drift if you're Highsmith into the corner here, right? And you're going to force Wemby to follow. Wait, let's use a different color. We're going to force Wemby to follow here, right? And he's going to have to close out. And he does like a fine job closing out. Like, I don't really have a problem with this. And then let's drop on the other side here. What's going to happen here? Ball is going to go here. And then they're going to drive into this empty baseline here. It's just classic hammer action, essentially. Ball's going to go to the corner. Vic is going to close out, and Vic does a great job on the closeout, then flips his hips. They kind of like peel switch it looks like a little bit, and then like they don't peel. Like, it looks like there's just like a little mini miscommunication as they're trying to get back into this play, right? It looks like Vic thinks that he's just going to stay, and then let's get rid of those. And then let's again get rid of those. And then maybe Chetty is going to come up here onto this guy. But that doesn't really happen, just like a little miscommunication. And Vic, by the way, still almost gets the steal because of course he does, because he's insane. But because you end up having to help around the court so much because Vic is roaming, it does lead to a wide open three here on this like kick out. And if I was another team, I would be running things like this. I'd be
Yes.
running Vic through off-ball screening actions. If they're going to guard him, they're going to use him to guard perimeter players. I would run Vic through off-ball screening actions like this, force him to close out, force him to communicate quickly on the fly. He's going to get good at this at some point. Like,
Yep.
we're not going to pretend like he's not. But early on, I think that's what you do.
Yes.
And
Because
look,
what he wants to do is stay and block shots, right? He wants to be
right.
impactful in the lane. I'm not saying he can't go out and close out, but yeah, I think you have it lined up right here, baseline out of bounds. Screen him, make him move, make him make multiple efforts. I'm not saying he doesn't play hard. I'm just saying put him in situations where he can't just lock in on the strong side when he's on the weak side and then come over and redirect a shot or a pass or whatever. Make
Yep.
him be engaged in things as much as possible.
Yeah, and what I love about this is, like, it's not like you have Haywood Highsmith here. I've showed this play already, but like, this is at 9:49 in the third. It's not like you have Haywood Highsmith like running around this screening action to try and like get loose. What I love here is that this could be like a read by Highsmith. This could be something else. Like, I don't know necessarily. You'd have to ask them. But Vic is starting out behind the screening action.
Yep.
And really, like, the way you have to defend this is either you have to have Vic like run around, which is what ends up happening, or you have to kind of switch the action and you have to say, like, Devin, you have to go out and chase this action. If you're going to have Vic start this play behind the screens while he's guarding Haywood Highsmith, right? And he's definitely guarding Haywood Highsmith here.
Yep.
So as you run through it, that's a lot of ground for him to cover. It's hard for him to get around those screens and navigate those screens. And I just think it's a really smart little play that, again, I think teams will start to run him through screening actions more and more. It's just the way that you attack Vic on defense if they're going to play him like this.
Yep. Yeah. Be a really good off the ball mover and just continue to put pressure and hold his attention so he can't just focus on the strong side action.
Yep. Yeah, and this is the what the fuck play part 2, right? Where he dunks on Thomas Bryant from outside of the circle.
With his left.
Yeah. He has the ball in his left hand. He is outside of the circle there. He has very little momentum.
Yeah,
He's jumping straight up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the closest play I've seen to a Monstars play at 8:36 in the third quarter. Like, his whole body is still basically outside of the restricted area.
Yeah, he's I know it seems simple, but we talk about this with other players. I just love the mentality though as well,
Yeah.
of I'm just going to throw it down on your face with attitude, with aggressiveness. I really like that. And
So, and by the way, just look at the way they're getting into this, right? So you're going to run like an empty side ball screen into essentially a little zoom Chicago, whatever you want to call it, for Devin Vassell to come up here. Take this from Malachi Branham. He's going to take this screen from Chetty, right? I love the design of this, like the whole way.
Well, and that's
it's really good basketball.
We haven't talked about, if teams are going to guard Victor with the people we think they're going to, you're going to put a lot of those guys in situations they're not used to defending. Not those guys that we're talking about aren't used to guarding the screener in a pick and roll or a pick and pop. And you can't always just switch it because they're used to switching probably guard to guard with their teammate guards. But now you're putting probably a smaller player on him, and Victor's going to take advantage of that. So it'll be really interesting to watch night in and night out who teams decide to put on Victor, and then what kind of issues that may create for their defense because of who they have to put on him.
Yeah. This is a really fun one too here. Like, watch Sohan. He's just like, Vic, you gotta go. Like, you got to roll here. You can't just like float at the top. I love that Sohan's like already kind of telling him like, Vic, like, you're 7'5". Go underneath the rim.
Yes. Yes, that was good. I missed that early.
Yeah, Jeremy Sohan gets an assist for that play, in my opinion.
He should, absolutely.
Like Jeremy Sohan deserves an assist for that play. I mean, again, like truly, I don't know. I don't know how you guard this. Don't know how you guard this. Go ahead. And Thomas Bryant, like this is the one where like we've gotten the other angle of it. You can just see Thomas Bryant look over at the coaching staff, just going, I don't know what to do here.
That's when you know that players are special, is when Thomas Bryant is in the NBA. He's a very decorated NBA, like has a very decorated basketball career.
Yeah.
And that dude is going, it's like when Steph hits some of these shots and you watch defenders throw their hands up and shake their head.
Yep.
These guys are ultimate competitors, athletes, career, all of that stuff. And they're looking at a peer going, oh my gosh, I can't believe what just happened. And this is a rookie in his second preseason game. Can you imagine what we're going to get throughout not just his rookie year, but then whenever he really starts to understand the game and get a little bit stronger and grow, and the game slows down and they continue to grow around him? It's really exciting for the game of basketball, for NBA.
He's a teenager. Like that's insane that this dude is a teenager. So here again, notice, just going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4 guys with Vic now basically emptied out.
You have to double him.
Yep, you have to double him because, I mean, what else are you going to do, right? Like you basically have to. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the catch. And now because you have the double, 1, 2, somebody's open.
You're running,
right?
Sohan setting the screen, forcing some weak side. Great slip by Sohan. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that what Sohan recognizes here is pretty simple. Let's get rid of the numbers. So his man guarding him here, I think that is Jamal Cain again.
Goes to double.
I think he just sees the double and goes.
Yep.
Right? Like you can watch him, you can see him turn his head. Right? Like he's looking here to see where his guy is, which I should be able to draw. Not sure what's going on. He's looking to see where his guy is here. Right? And as soon as he sees that his man has doubled, he goes. Just smart basketball. Empty side, force the double. Man's double goes, or the defender goes. His man dives to the rim.
And again, I realize there's a lot of big players in the league, but at 7'4", 7'5", you see a lot of guys dribble out of that double to create room to make the pass out. Wemby can just hold the ball above his head and throw it where he needs it to go. So he can make the quick read, whether it's the cut, whether it's Shetty coming off the screen, whether it's Vassell on the weak side, whatever it is, they can run any action they want 4-on-3 on the back side of that. And Victor has the angles to get the ball where he needs to without moving, because he just puts the ball above the defense.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. So this next play here, Vic, awesome closeout. Goes back, follows his man toward the corner. They do an exchange. They auto switch the exchange. Really smart. Looks like he's lost track of Haywood Highsmith.
This is Highsmith's expression on this one is, again, something you don't always see. He just looks so deflated. I remember seeing this one on the broadcast. He just turns and is like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I don't know here. This is the last clip we've got here, as you guys can see. Maybe if you're watching on the video, this is 6 minutes left in the third. I love the closeout. Really, really good closeout here. Really good little drop coverage exchange here. Does a good job making it so that Duncan doesn't have any space to get the shot off. Then he recovers back onto Jamal Cain. They do an exchange. Vassell, I want to point out Devin here because Devin does a great job communicating. Look at him pointing.
Yes.
He's pointing back saying, hey, this is This is an exchange. We're going to switch it, right? So Vic's guy is Haywood Highsmith here. The reason that Vic is like slightly out of position here, just very slightly, is because Thomas Bryant is rolling to the rim, right? So this is, just your normal ball screen. He's going to get downhill. He's going to open his hips and he's going to go. Vic is the low man. He has to be cognizant of Thomas Bryant here. He is cognizant. You can see he's like kind of looking at him. He's looking at the ball. He's got vision. He's got his peripherals going. He's not really out of position here, in my opinion. Now he's just contesting this shot from so far away, guys. Like, he is on the opposite side of the restricted area, and he's getting out here and somehow contesting this shot. I mean, like truly at first I thought he like had just lost track of Highsmith, and then I went through and like watched the play and like tried to understand, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, why is he so far out of position? Then I realized he's actually not out of position, like truly. He's doing his job, and then he's just rotating over. Typically what would happen here on a play like this is that Highsmith, at least in the NBA, typically what happens in these circumstances is Highsmith would go all the way to the corner, actually, as opposed to the dunker spot.
Yeah.
If he goes to the corner here, the way that the defense would work is you would then have Branham, let's use different colors here defensively, shoot down, and then Vic would be responsible for the X out
to Duncan Robinson.
Out to Duncan.
Yep.
Right. Which is great because, like, that makes total sense in terms of defense. But because Highsmith ends up stopping here and going for this little shot, Vic is actually there and just able to make the recovery. Yeah. I mean, this is, and again, look where he's blocking this shot. I mean, this is like impossible to me.
I want to say Highsmith tries to get out of his hands quick. Like, he does everything he can possibly do. It's and the shot clock's going down, and so he has to get the shot off. And as we've said multiple times in multiple ways, Vic just changes the trajectory of the basketball floor and what you're capable of doing.
Yes. Completely and utterly changes the way that like basketball works on the court through his sheer presence defensively and like offensively with what you can run. This was an insane performance from Vic. I don't know of any other way to describe it. I thought that he might be more of like he'll probably go for like 16 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks a game, something like that, rookie. I'm now like not, he might be like much more than that. Yeah. I think there will be nights where the offense isn't going in quite this manner. And like he just misses shots, right? And it might look a little bit ugly on those nights, frankly. But there are going to be more nights like this, I think, where it's like process-wise, functionally, and I get that this was like the Miami Heat, backups, right? I do. But the process here was so on point that's what works for me.
Yeah, you like what they're doing with him, how they're doing it, the actions he's getting into. I like the attempts he's getting. He's still just shooting 30% from 3, but it looks good. I want to ask this question. I don't think he's had a positive assist to turnover ratio in his young career. Again, still just a teenager. I'm not trying to critique him. I'm just asking a question. Do you think Victor ends up with a positive assist to turnover ratio in his rookie season? And if not, when do you think that eventually clicks for him?
I think it'll be pretty close to even this
Okay.
year, I would say. Like I would bet he averages like 3 assists and 3 turnovers, something
Yeah.
like that. Just because it seems like they're going to run a lot of the offense through him.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're going to run that much of the offense through someone, they're just going to kind of get assists at the NBA level. And, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, something like that. Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be sick. Like, I think that it's probably, he'll turn the ball over a decent amount. Like, he had 4 turnovers in this game, right? Like, I think we only grabbed 1 of them, but like he had 4 turnovers. Like, it's still going to, those are still going to come. Guys are going to dig into his handle and it's going to be an issue, but he's getting better. Like, the growth here from what we saw at the end of the season for Metropolitans is different. Like, he looks better again.
And the thing is, the floor spacing, as you eloquently outlined on multiple of those clips, I wrote it in an article when I did my draft series, my best performance series for Draft Digest. And I just talked about how he was going to greatly benefit from a better floor spacing at the NBA level, that he was often staring down 5 defensive players with Mets 92. And that probably leads to some turnovers. And it also, just the shot making level of NBA players is going to increase the assist numbers as well. So I'm with you. I think that floor spacing, the way they're using him, I love the way they're using him. That was really interesting and really good to see. It's going to be, I like a lot of guys on this team. They're definitely one of my league pass teams. I'm sure they are everybody's, except for the people who get tired of hearing about Wembanyama, but I'm going to try to watch him as often as I possibly can.
Okay, let's take one quick commercial break, and then we will talk a little bit about some of these rookies that have come through over the course of the next 45 minutes. Okay, Bryce, who do you want to start with here? The only ones I'm going to say we should wait on are Bilal and Brandon Miller, because we have tape on those as well, and I want to take a minute and stop with the tape for just a second.
Yeah, so just let's go with the outline here in the order. Let's go with Scoot Henderson and what we have seen from him so far. I saw the Suns game, and then I had some notes from his game versus the Jazz as well.
So yeah, I watched a lot of the Jazz game. And the thing that stood out for me the most is something that I've talked about a lot with Scoot in general, is just the change of pace. His ability to stop and start, his comfort, his patience. He is just somebody that has full control over what they're running and what he's running and what they're hoping to do at all times. And that's what's so impressive to me about him, is just that ability to have that comfort level to shift gears and feel like guys aren't going to come and dig into his handle in the mid range. And then the one hand gathers to go up to the basket. Like there are just a lot of really, really veteran like things that he brings to the table, even though he's still a teenager.
One thing that gave me a lot of confidence as a scouter was actually Scoot. And the first time I watched him, it wasn't the athleticism, the explosiveness. Obviously, that was incredible. It was actually the stuff you just outlined, how he played under control, the pace he played with. I love guys that know the nuance of operating a ball screen, guys that set ball screens up with jab steps and shot fakes, and they'll dribble their defender down to the line of the screen. And Scoot was doing that as a 17-year-old in his first year with the G League Ignite, not last year, the year before. And that stuff stood out to me. And then, of course, he did it again. I have a couple things I would like to see Scoot grow here early in the season that I'm going to keep my eye on. I want to throw those out and just see what you think. Foul trouble is something I had in his scouting report coming out. He has almost averaged 5 fouls a game in less than 30 minutes a game through 3 preseason games. So I'm interested with that. Turnovers have been a little bit of an issue, but that's all young point guards in this league. I thought in that Jazz game, he had a little bit of trouble scoring at the rim. Are there any of those factors that not concerning? I think both of us are huge believers in Scoot, but just like, yeah, I'm really interested to see how quickly he grows from those.
I think he might struggle a little bit around the basket early, just because he's small and smaller guys can struggle a little bit, but he's clearly also learning the speed with which he needs to like gather and when he has the angles. To me, it's going to be more of like a shot selection thing on like an attacking selection thing. And frankly, I would prefer him attacking
Yep.
as opposed to settling, because that is one thing that he generally could do from time to time in the G League, was settle more. In my opinion, I always thought that he was settling because he was kind of working on some things and didn't want to go into crowds, before the draft and get hurt and everything like that. I didn't really see it as like a huge issue contextually, but some people did. What I really like about Scoot, though, is that he has that sense, he's developing that sense, is maybe the way to put it, of when he has the angle and can get all the way to the rim and when he doesn't.
And I think what these rookies have to learn, and I have this in my notes about Amin and Asar Thompson, is you have elite level rim protectors in this league. And as athletic as you are, as talented as you are, as skilled as you are, sometimes the better choice is to not challenge them at the rim or to figure out a different angle. And so I think even Scoot, more so than the Thompson twins, is going to have to figure that out a little bit. I just thought in the Jazz game, he challenged Kessler a couple times. I love that he plays through contact, right? I love that he seeks out that contact and he is so strong and can handle it. I just wanted to see that. Now, in the third quarter, he went on a really nice stretch with the ball screen use. He had a drive and did finish through contact. He had a floater drive, right hand hook pass to Jeremy Grant for a 3-pointer that he made. I want to ask you about the 3-point shot as well. I've always been a believer in it, Sam, because the mid-range jumper looks so pure. I just feel like eventually he was going to be able to move it out to the 3-point line. He's improved both years in the G League. He improved. And then here in the preseason, almost 5 attempts a game, shooting 36%. They're having to play him off ball because Anthony Simons is going to play on ball some. Shaden Sharp's going to play on ball some. I kind of like what I've seen. When he does miss, he misses short. And I think that's something you can fix and, can continue to grow.
Yeah. So, shout out to Danny Meringue, who's in the YouTube comments now. He asked a really good question. Just did a film watch with Blazers fans, interested in your thoughts on Scoot's pull up / off the dribble jumper. And I just asked him, like, what are the specific things people want to know about? Look, I think he can shoot those. Like, the mid-range game has always been something that I think he's had. I'll pull up the percentages from the draft guide from when he was with the G League, but I've always loved that part of his game. I think that he's super comfortable with it, and I have no problem with him taking those. Like, I think that the issue where I have mid-range jumper concerns are with off-ball players who tend to just like float into them a little bit. Scoot, they're going to give him that shot, and yeah, he's probably not like a lethal, knockdown 48% guy on those attempts right now, but he's above the level he needs to be right now for that to be like a skill where he's probably going to be a 47-48% guy at some point on those mid-range pull-ups. The shot is balanced. Everything is so simple.
Sorry, I was just reading his comment there in the chat about the pull-up jumper. I don't know. I feel like it's looked really fluid. I've always bought into it. I think maybe the numbers actually dipped, if I'm not mistaken, just a little bit this last year. I'm just not concerned about the way it looks. I think the jumper looks good, and I think he looks real comfortable with it off the bounce.
So yeah, Danny says catch and shoot mechanics look clean, repeatable, 0 questions about that. His off the dribble stuff is very inconsistent. Where I think it's inconsistent is often from like a gather and like footwork situation where like he will take them off of multiple different footworks. And I think that his legs will fly a little bit from time to time. Even from the mid-range, you'll see that. I don't know that that's necessarily like him having like balance issues. I think that he goes straight up and down. It feels like his legs and his base are underneath him, even when the legs fly a little bit. Like I just did a breakdown on Bobby Klintman, right? Like Bobby Klintman, when he's on the move, because he has that like real like knee collapse into his shot. When he's going left, his left foot is like way out from underneath his body. I think Scoot does a good job of like getting his frame and like base underneath his body. It's just that like sometimes the legs will go like multiple different directions kind of after he releases. In terms of the top of the shot, I'm like trying to think a little bit more off the top of my head after having watched them. Maybe I'll pull that up while we're talking, just so I can like take a look at it again. Bryce, give me some thoughts here.
No, one thing I want to say about the footwork there is I like guys that are able to do it from different gathers. So the left right 1 2, the right left 1 2. Sometimes you got a jump stop, step back going both ways. And so I love, even if it's maybe not as consistent right now, if the numbers aren't quite as good because he's trying all those different things out. I get real frustrated watching guys who can only step left right or guys who can only jump stop into a jump shot. And so if he's trying out all those different things and maybe that's causing a little bit of inconsistency right now, I'm okay with that because I think that eventually you need all those different footworks to be successful at this level. And I'd rather him work through those things now than 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
Yeah, so I'm watching right now. I can kind of see what Danny is talking about here. I think that you know what, like it's not that bad. Like sometimes he's a little bit more straight up. Sometimes like his base flies forward a little bit. And like his takeoff point is like pretty drastically different from his landing point, where he'll land like pretty far in front of his body.
He said particularly from 3. I wonder if Scoot's still just getting used to that distance. I know he's been playing in the G League, so he's been playing, but I mean, I don't know that strength is an issue. Obviously, it's not because he's such a strong kid, but maybe just getting used to his form, his mechanics being repeatable off the dribble from the 3-point line. He does jump forward sometimes on those.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of just like looking at it in slow mo as we're talking. I like the release up top. I think it's fine. He might get a little too much offhand on it from the top, where like he's like kind of missing wide, like left and right a little bit here and there.
So
And you can
that's
see that like the rhythm can be off. I can see what they're
yes.
talking about now.
Yeah.
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 But this is all super fixable, I think. This is all these are small changes in my opinion. Like he just needs probably to involve a little bit less guide hand. I don't think he's really thumbing it, is he? No, I don't think so. I think that the guide hand might just be getting like a little bit involved as we're talking here. And I'm trying, like, I'm watching like, 5 or 6 of these shots um, as we're going through.
Yeah, I can see where at times the rhythm and the fluidity isn't as much, especially when he gets out of the mid range. Like I would agree with that. And that's what I'm saying. My point was the 3-point shot looks to be improving. He looks to be growing in confidence. I don't know that the percentage is going to be 36% for the entire season, but I do think he's getting better each year with it.
So now I pulled up the Phoenix game. Yeah, he's got like a little bit of a twist sometimes as well that I'm seeing in terms of the mechanics. Yeah, it's not it's all from 3 though. Danny's right. It's all from 3.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, he's finishing at the top pretty straight up and down. It's not broken, just varied from his catch and shoot. Catch and shoot wouldn't touch at all. Pull up jumper from 3 is what you're talking about. Yeah, I can kind of see the fall away piece of it as well. Like I'm watching this first shot. I don't know. He's not falling away though here. He's going in pretty forward actually. I think a lot of the time he kind of has forward momentum on the shot as much as anything. That's definitely look like Scoot being a pull-up shooter is the difference between him and, in my opinion, Ja Morant, and why I like Scoot a little bit more as a prospect than Ja. I think with how you need somebody who can get to that pull-up shot consistently in the playoffs if you're going to have a smaller guard out there. Also, just like the strength and potential to guard up the lineup a little bit better. It's why like I just like the way Scoot's game projects a little bit more to high leverage moments than Jaws at this point. I think all this is fixable. I understand the idea of, saying that he's finishing at the top pretty straight up and down. It's not broken, just varied from his catch and shoot. Yeah, I've always thought that his catch and shoot is like just a little bit different, maybe is the way to put it. Some guys have different mechanics
Oh yeah.
from the catch and shoot to the pull up. I'm going to look through here at a catch and shoot shot. If I remember correctly, like he almost gets on his toes for the catch and shoot opportunities, right?
Well, this will be interesting. I'm gonna have to go back through and watch these and watch them moving forward, because I kind of thought maybe the off the dribble 3-point shot would translate faster than the catch and shoot. He just looks so comfortable with the
Yeah.
pull up jumper in the mid range. I assume that would translate into, people go under the ball screen and he's able to fluidly get into that. I wonder if it's a momentum thing as well, right? You're going into a 15-foot mid-range jumper. You're kind of moving forward. You have a little more momentum. Maybe were those ones you watched, Sam? Was there not as much rhythm or like downhill momentum? Was he kind of dribbling to the side or in place when he took those ones from three?
I watched a mix.
Okay.
The thing that I'm seeing here as much as anything is I think off the catch. So A, he's on his toes off the catch in terms of the base. B, I think he's actually like a little bit more turned in terms of his body. Like he's at like closer to like a 45-degree angle, it looks like, with his feet in terms of the base, which is allowing him to get the like right arm into alignment a little bit better with the rim.
Yep.
So yeah, it's very quiet, very soft. Yeah, Danny, I agree with that. But again, the big thing for me is that like wide base on his toes to start, feet like almost at a 45, and it allows him to like really get into that like soft and generate power, I think, from the lower half, while also getting his elbow into like slightly better alignment with the rim. It's not a 45 quite, but like it's a the catch and shoot is going to be good. Like you look at these mechanics, this is like almost what you would teach, I think, at the top. Like maybe like right at the top, he's still probably involving a little too much. You know what though? He's letting it loose. He's letting that guide hand go before he shoots it. Yeah, no, I think he's going to shoot off the catch. Looking at it, the pull ups are just going to take time. Pull up shooting is hard in the NBA with speed. But when you're somebody who has the ability to decelerate like he does, the ability to stop on a dime, get your balance underneath you, get your base underneath you. I think he's going to be fine. I think the pull up is going to be totally fine, to be honest. Look, we haven't talked about his passing yet. I think his passing has been outstanding too, to this point.
Yeah. Like I said, that stuff's really impressive with him. And, in the second game, that Jazz game, he didn't play with Ayton or, Robert Williams. And I think no matter what you think about DeAndre Ayton and all of that, I think having guys that he can play with in the pick and roll will be really good for him. And so, in that game, he didn't have either one of those guys. I felt like he wasn't able to demonstrate quite as much of that stuff in the ball screen, but having either one of those guys essentially at all times, he has some floor spacers around him. I just think he's in a good place to be successful, showcasing the pull-up jumper, getting to the rim, and his ability to just attack and create and make nice reads.
Let's go to Amen Thompson now. I'll let you start on Amen because I started on Scoot last time.
Yeah, I loved Amen coming in. I want to ask this. I just brought up the no big lob threat. This isn't a shot at Şengün. Do you think this team needs one? Do you see any issues that Amen doesn't kind of have that pick and roll lob threat, vertical rim finisher to really pressure the rim whenever he's operating in these ball screens? Or is not that big of a deal to you?
It might be nice as a change of pace, but it's not that big of a deal to me. I think that Şengün is just so gifted in terms of his hands and his footwork and ability to like help him in, frankly, like initiate offense from time to time. I will say that long term, I think one of those two is going to have to shoot more than anything. Like if neither of them can shoot and neither, like Amen is like a pure downhill rim pressure guy. So maybe it might not matter, but like where I'm concerned is more the shooting, not the like downhill rim presence is a big with Amen, because I almost think that you want a spacer with Amen more than anything else
to keep the lane open.
yeah, he's going to be downhill pressure. He's going to be going.
Yeah. So I thought defensively, he showed some really good stuff. He had good screen navigation on and off the ball. And we talked earlier about the communication from, I believe it was Vassell. I thought Amin did that. I thought his aggressiveness was lacking a little bit when I first turned on the Pacers game. And then Van Vliet and JSJ went out. And then he kind of got into it a little bit, had some really nice possessions, operating ball screens, solid passes. I thought his handle was a tad loose at times, especially when he was trying to snake screens. He would get that ball away, and you always have those guys digging in, and it got a little bit loose. I would say I didn't think he stood out just incredible. I thought he was good. I thought he was fine. That's not a knock, but I didn't think he was just awesome. He didn't blow me away as I watched some of this film, as maybe some of these other guys we'll talk about.
The athleticism did blow me away in terms of like how his athletic traits are translating.
Sure.
He threw down, like he drove like semi like baseline, I guess ish, and like threw up like a pump and like went underneath, like hung underneath the basket and threw down like a dunk on the other side of the rim
against the Pelicans.
Yeah, it was absolutely disgusting. And I don't know how somebody has that hang time to be able to do that. I like his defense in terms of how it's translating to just making action plays happen, which is what we kind of thought. And honestly, I think that his defensive fundamentals have improved quite a bit. Like he was a guy that was purely hunting for action plays with OTE. And I think that like now he's, fighting around screens a little bit better. And, just mechanically, I think he looks better than what we saw when he was with OTE.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say that about Asar as well when we talk about him, but I had questions about how quickly both of them would be really high level defenders in the league, because I thought they had some bad habits from OTE. When watching the film, I thought there was times that there was just possessions I didn't love. And I feel like both of them have grown a ton. And now that just allows the athleticism to flourish, because they can navigate screens in ways other guys can't. They can recover in ways other guys simply just cannot. We've spent an hour swooning over Victor because of his elite 7'5" and 8-foot wingspan and whatever. Now we're talking about dudes who they don't have that presence with their length, but their athleticism and their explosiveness and ability to get off the floor makes them really special on the defensive end. And I think they have really good habits, even just like fundamental habits that were further along than I expected them to be.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Offensively with the men looked much better. I thought against New Orleans looked a little bit more comfortable. Against New Orleans, I don't buy the shot. I know that some Rockets fans are seeing like some clips in practice and like trying to point out every make. It feels like
I think it looks more unique. Like I feel like every time I see it, it looks different. It's almost like he's trying not to jump now. I came away from it. I don't want to say concerned. Maybe I am concerned. I just was like, I don't know what to think about it, I guess is the best way I can say it. And that's leaving it hard for me to believe in it.
I think where I'm at is that you're right that it changes every time I see it, and it's just going to take some time. I think. And like it might not come, but like it's going to be a process. I think with a man as a shooter.
I just want to mention real quick before we move on to anybody else. I did the synergy and I just watched a men's minutes, but within those minutes, I got some time of Jabari Smith Jr. and Cam Whitmore. Jabari Smith Jr. looks real confident right now. He was making some of those wow shots that I was talking about from college. And I know we were in the same boat on Cam Whitmore. We both had Cam Whitmore very high, and we don't have to get into all of this. Cam Whitmore looks really good. And
I mean, the reason we're not going to talk about Cam here is because I talked about Cam a lot on the last podcast. If you want to go listen to my thoughts on Cam Whitmore, I would just implore you to go do that. We'll talk about Cam more and more if he ends up carving out a rotation role to start the season. And frankly, like, I don't think that's a bad call. I mean, look, people have heard my thoughts on Cam. I'm sure they're probably sick of hearing my thoughts on Cam after the whole draft process. Do you have any other takeaways you just want to like get off your chest about him before we move on?
No, I don't like. I was super high on Cam when he went 20th. I feel like some people threw it in my face, like you wanted the Pistons to draft him at 5, and I'm like, yeah, I did. I think Cam Whitmore is really really good. I heard some of the intel. I don't have as many, whatever. Well, again, we don't have to get into that stuff, but I'm just like, I don't feel justified because we're how many ever summer league games and 2 preseason games, 3 preseason games. I think Cam Whitmore has shown that he's really, really talented. And so as an evaluator, it makes me feel a little bit better that what I was seeing with his tape wasn't wrong just in terms of the raw talent. That kid can absolutely play. And I'll say this, and you've probably said it. If Amin and Asar Thompson aren't in this draft, people are talking about Cam Whitmore as the most explosive athlete in the 2023 draft. His explosiveness and athleticism got overlooked because Amin and Asar are so ridiculous of athletes.
Speaking of Asar, look, this is Pistons. This is Pistons fan time now. So I'm just going to give you the floor on Asar. You've watched more than I have of their games.
Yeah, I've watched every second of Asar from summer league to these preseason games. Asar is doing what Asar did in summer league. He's impacting the game in a multitude of ways. The defense, man, is so much further than what I thought. I want to read from an article. I said the inconsistent effort, lack of engagement off the ball, and random rotations come down to one of 2 things. Was Thompson simply young and bored, or these truly part of his defensive profile? I asked the question and he has answered with, I think he was just young and bored, or I misevaluated him. Maybe it's my fault, but he definitely is not young and bored. He is engaged off the ball. He is engaged on the ball. He's taking the other team's best matchup. I'm not saying he's going to be a lockdown guy. You know what else he's doing? And this is going to allow them to be creative with their lineups. He's really rebounding the ball. He is rebounding the heck out of the basketball. And then offensively, it's going to be a work in progress. He's made some threes. He made a huge one to send the game into overtime, first preseason game, but it's still a work in progress. We have a comment in the chat here that I actually agree with. They do have to work on their finishing around the rim. I don't know if I'd call it a disaster, but there is definite room for growth, especially in the half court. And I would definitely say that's true with Asar, but he has been very, very good. And he's just going to be an all-around player. I don't even know if he'll average 10 points a game this season, but I think he'll get putbacks, cuts, he'll guard, he'll get steals, he'll run transition, and he just got to develop some of the other skill set offensively.
You're with me. You would not start him day one, right?
No, I will. I do.
You would start him?
I would.
Give me that take, because that is, I so disagree with this, but I would love to hear the case for it.
So I tweeted out the other day. I can't hide behind it. I would start Cade, Ivy, Asar, Boyan, and Duren.
Cade, Ivy, Asar, Boyan, Duren. Okay. Why?
Because I think he is ready to take those defensive matchups day one. I would throw him to the fire and just find out what he can do. And then I think he's doing all of the other things that you need him. I assume you're going to question the spacing with Cade. Is this an Asar thing, or is this a Pistons Cade as a whole thing for you?
Yeah, no, I think Asar has looked really good in the preseason, just defensively and being able to do impact the game with his passing and quick decision making and everything like that. I don't think he can score on an NBA court yet, frankly,
Fair.
like consistently, but him being like your 5th starter that's impacting the game in a lot of different ways. I love it if you are going to play 4 spacers around him. Realistically, the Pistons are going to play like 2.5 around him. And to me, I don't think that they are going to have like that might be the worst offense in the NBA. If you start Asar, Ivy, Cade, Jalen Duren, Boyan.
I think they can make it worst offense in the NBA.
The NBA is good. Like if you look at teams across the league, like, so Houston last year had quite a poor offense, right? They're going to start Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks,
Jabari,
Alperen Şengün, and Jabari Smith. That offense probably scores more points per 100 than the Pistons starters, right?
Yeah. No, one thing I've realized is as I've watched all of these preseason games, is like, man, the Pistons have a lot further to go than even what I thought coming into the season. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
on the play-in bandwagon to begin with. I just I don't know. Like I just want to see. I think he's played well enough to start, I guess, is my thing. And with Boyan, you get floor spacing. I actually think Jaden Ivey can catch and shoot off the ball. So I'm okay. I think you can survive in the NBA with 2 non-shooters. So that's my justification.
Do teams treat Jaden Ivey like a shooter?
No, but I think he's going to make him pay if they don't. Like I believe in his catch and shoot. And then I believe whenever somebody closes out, he's going to attack him off the bounce. So this is
if you think that like he can knock down, 40%, because he shot 38 last year. So like growth for him would be
catch and shoot. I think he was almost 40. Yeah.
Yeah. Like growth for him would be going from, I think he was like 37.6 or something last year on catch and shoot threes to 40. Like that's what you're hoping for from Jaden Ivey, right?
Yes.
Like if he can do that and can do it on 4 attempts per game, then yes, he will be a good enough shooter for teams to have to start guarding him. And if he's going to hurt you like that, you have to guard him point blank, right?
Yes.
So someone in the YouTube comments brings up 38% from 3 on catch and shoots, enough to get closeouts. On volume, yes, but sure. Jaden was not on volume last year. Jaden was on like 2 of those shots per game as opposed to 4 or 5. Otherwise, they're just going to stop you from attacking. A lot of those shots ended up being like wide open. That's why he made them. And also there's a difference between making 40% of wide open threes versus 40% of getting closed out on threes. Yeah. Right. So if he's going to make 40% of his open threes, then yes, I'm with you on that starting lineup. I mean, look, like I've been clear from the jump, like I would go more like I would bring Isaiah off the bench. I'm with you, but I would go like one of Ivy or Asar with Cade, Burks, Boyan, and Jalen Duren.
Listen, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Like as people that watch Pistons games, we're having to get comfortable with this because all of a sudden Monty has thrown this at us in the first 2 preseason games when we really didn't think it was a possibility. I can live with that. If that's what it needs to be. If people, what can't happen is we talked about this. You can't play Asar, Stu, and Duren all together. But I think Asar and Duren are good enough passers. I think they're good enough off the ball movers. Boyan is obviously going to get people's respect as a floor spacer. If Ivy does, I think it can work. If not, then I'm okay if you feel like you need to start Alec Burks with that lineup. Now it comes down to who does it matter more to start between Jaden Ivey and Asar Thompson? And I don't know what the answer to that question is between
especially
the 2.
When you went out to get Monte Morris to run the second unit.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and this is just me, like I'm willing to be proven wrong on this, like totally. This is so up in the air, I think. Like the Pistons have so many different lineup constructions that they can bring to the table. Like I'm 100% willing to be proven wrong on this, and I would be happy if I was. I would like to pair Monte with Jaden.
Okay.
A little bit, or no. I'm sorry. I would like to pair Monte with Asar more so than Jaden. Honestly, I would like to pair Monte with Jaden as well. Like I think that would help too. But like if you're playing Jaden off the bench, the idea is that you're letting Jaden run the show a little bit, right? You're getting him opportunities.
Do you think he needs that?
Play on ball. Yes and no.
I may be the most Jaden can thrive as an off-ball player there is. And I think that's where I'm more confident maybe in that starting lineup, but just in Jaden in general is I actually for a while now have believed more in his off the ball, being able to be successful as an off the ball.
And that's something I've talked a lot about as well, is Jaden being like off ball attacker next to Cade. That's what I love with his game. Like you get him the ball with defenses bent and in rotation, and you let his athleticism and speed and power like take advantage of those situations. I could not agree with you more, but the whole advantage, in my opinion, of having both Cade and Jaden, in theory, is that you can have one of those two on the court long term at all times, right? So you do still need to get him some on ball reps.
Sure.
So maybe the move is you start him, you take him out early, you bring in, Alec Burks or something, and then you bring him back, with 2 minutes left in the first when you get Cade a little bit of rest, and then you play him with Monte. Maybe you are selling me on this. I would start one of those two, though. I would not start both Ivy and Asar.
So who would you prioritize it? Like if you said,
I like Ivy more as a prospect, so I would start Ivy.
And then you would still start Burks along with those guys for the floor spacing?
Yes.
Okay.
I would start Cade, Ivy, Burks, Boyan, Duren. And then honestly, I would probably start Stewart over Duren, but like that's a whole other conversation that I don't want to get into the weeds on. I just think Isaiah Stewart's a better player than Jalen Duren right now, but I'm willing to be shown that Jalen Duren has shown real like tangible growth this offseason. I think that'd be fantastic. And if he is a starter, that'd be great. Like I would love that. And then I would bring Jaden out like 4 or 5 minutes into the first, bring in maybe Asar.
Then you could bring in Asar with that lineup.
Let Asar play through the first, bring Jaden back in for Cade maybe, or bring Jaden in for Burks or something like that at like the 8 or, maybe the 9 or 10 minute mark with, 2 minutes left in the first. Let Jaden run the show with Monte a little bit. Like maybe that's it.
I know what I do, and I do have a little bit of fandom with, Pistons Twitter is going to implode with that one. I do have a little bit of fandom with the Pistons. I just like the idea of seeing Cade, Ivy, Asar, Duren all on the floor together. The recent lottery picks all playing together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I kind of default to that. And then it's just like Boyan has enough floor spacing. And again, I believe in Jaden off the ball, being able to knock down, catch and shoot and attack closeouts. I get what you're saying though. Like I understand the floor spacing. We had this conversation last time I was on with you. So I get it. And I'm not going to die on the Asar has to start Hill for the record.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually would start Duren because I would want the rim runner with Cade.
Yeah.
Actually. Like I actually would want the rim runner with Cade. So yeah. Like I think Stewart is a better defender than Jalen Duren is right now, personally. But I actually, the more I think about it, if you're going to start two shooters with Cade,
yes,
I would want the rim running. Yeah. So yeah.
And I like Stewart. I think his ultimate role is a third big off the bench. And so now he's into that role. And maybe you can be pretty decent with a bench unit of Monty, Asar, Stu, and then whoever wins the backup big battle between Wiseman and Bagley.
And we're assuming here that they're going to start like Cade, Asar, Boyan, Stewart, and Duren. Right.
Is that what I think they're going to do?
Yeah, like what they actually do.
That's kind of what it's been looking like. And like, if you didn't like my lineup, there's no way you can like that lineup.
No.
Okay.
No. Absolutely not. Hard pass.
Yeah.
Like, no. God, no. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've really liked Asar. So.
Yeah. The more I think about the Pistons, the more I think this is probably a team that is more toward the bottom of the East again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think watching these other teams, they're just really talented. And it's like, man, this team isn't as talented as I thought. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope players make jumps, and I hope Cade becomes what I said he was going to become last episode. So
yeah, I think Cade's going to be great. It's just, finding the right avenue for it. Okay. Let's run through a couple of these other rookies real quick before we do Bilal, because I want to do like a full scale Bilal breakdown on his defense. The Utah guys, Taylor Hendricks and Keontae George, are two that we wanted to talk about. Give me some thoughts on them.
Yeah, it's Taylor. I told you we had to look up the injury. I think it was hamstring. I didn't think he moved super fluid and comfortable in the games I watched. Now he still did some good things. He got to the free throw line a couple times. He had a huge offensive rebound. He tipped it out and then he stepped right into a 3-point make. I think they were up 1 with just over a minute to play in the game versus the Blazers. The shooting form, am I not remembering this right? I felt like the shooting stroke was super, super, super slow. And he hasn't played very many minutes. And so that's the other thing. We have of all these guys, he has the smallest sample size. We didn't even see him in Summer League. So I'm just curious. I didn't remember thinking that in my scouting of him coming into the draft. So I don't know if he's ramping up right now or what's going on.
I didn't think it was a super quick release, but I didn't think it was quite as slow as it looks right now. Look, he looks like a guy who has not played a lot recently. I think is the easiest way to say it. I don't think he should be in the G League to start the year. Like, just get him reps, get him time. It's not a bad thing. Just like let him get comfortable playing basketball again. What did you think of Keontae? Because Keontae is the one that I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah, so I think Keontae is still going to be a nuclear scorer. I have one. Okay, let me ask you this. I always look at I thought he was getting crushed on ball screens defensively. I think that's a major area of growth for Keontae. But I love the jumper. I loved a lot of the stuff he did offensively. I just had some worries defensively. I think I liked him on ball isolation, like all the way back to IMG. I just kind of worried, like, are people just going to ball screen him to death right now?
Yeah, I think that is going to happen defensively. I think that he wants to defend. I think
yes.
The issue for him right now is that the mechanics aren't there and he's just very skinny.
Yeah.
Like, part of what made him take this leap in the pre-draft process, right? And part of why I thought he looked so good at Summer League was he had lost some weight and I thought he'd gotten some bounce back. I thought he'd gotten like a little bit of explosiveness back. But I think that we're seeing the downside of that a little bit defensively right now. And look, he needed to do that. Like, he needed to.
Okay, so you still agree with that decision in totality?
He needed to change his body. Like, I think that he needed to kind of thin out to potentially add like better strength and better like muscle, as opposed to what we saw at Baylor, where he just didn't have a ton of lift, didn't have a lot of speed, like didn't have a lot of like juice, it felt like, comparatively to what we'd seen at past levels, right? So I think it was the right call. I think that defensively it is just going to take a minute for him. Honestly, like a decent comparison point here is Colin Sexton. Like, Colin Sexton wanted to defend when he was young. Like, it's not an effort issue with him. It's just that, and Colin was skinnier than Keontae is even, but like Colin just was a magnet for screens throughout the early couple years of his career. And he was one of the worst defenders in the league. I think Keontae is probably going to struggle quite a bit defensively, is where I'm at. And that's okay. Like, he looks like the offensive upside, both on and off the ball, is going to be valuable. So what did you think of him offensively?
Yeah, like I said, I think he's going to be a guy that just can really score kind of in bunches, I guess. I wonder about the consistency. We saw that a little bit at Baylor, right? Where if you saw his good games, he was insane. And then when you saw the games where he was missing shots, it wasn't quite as good. But he has one of the purest jumpers you will watch. Like, he has one of those jump shots that it just looks like he's going to make it every single time. And he can really get elevation on that shot, even for somebody at his size. How much do you believe into like the playmaking? Because as you every time I feel like you've emphasized on and off ball, and he's averaging almost 5 assists a game and just over 2. So you have, where are you on the scale of, I think Keontae George can kind of quote unquote run a second unit, maybe not even this year, but like kind of just projecting his role.
Oh, I think he'll run the second unit for them this year for sure.
Okay.
I've always really liked his vision. To me, it was always like execution and ball control and like not getting sped up. Like, I think that he sees the passes, and I wonder if having that like little bit of juice gives him a little bit more time now to be able to utilize that vision.
Sure.
Where if he's getting just that extra split second of separation, he's now able to like stop and not be as all over the map a little
Sure.
bit is the way to put it.
Yeah, no, I think, again, I think he can really, really not flash, that's the wrong word, but like he can really get going at times, really run a second unit. So what they're going to start Clarkson and Sexton in the backcourt?
Yeah, I think it's an open conversation at this point. Like if they started Keontae, that wouldn't like blow my mind. But like they also could start Taylor Horton Tucker at point. Like
True. Yeah, that's who
I
was
think
starting.
that
That's
like
right.
they're I think it's like very up in the air and open.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting team just to watch in general, right? Based on their season last year, and then just how kind of the roster and the rotations play out. Talk about teams that have different options and different ways they can go with it. And yeah, I mean, Keontae is an exciting player, and so it'll be interesting where he falls into that hierarchy.
Rapid fire here until we get to Bilal. I really liked Julian Strawther. I thought Julian Strawther looked really, really good for Denver, particularly on defense. I thought his activity defensively was way better than anything we saw at Gonzaga, frankly. And that was a big reason why I didn't really love him as a potential first round pick was the defense. I think he can 100% shoot like point blank. It's the defense and being able to like guard and be in the right spots consistently that I worry about. So far, so good, in my opinion, there.
Yeah, I mean, so what? He hit a couple as the fill guy off pick and roll action, had one coming off a pin down with beautiful right left footwork, had a silly one in the Bulls game that was a hardened step back, hit a couple off zoom actions. He hit some floaters, Sam, that I thought looked really nice. I had that question in my notes was what was the scouting report on his defense coming out of college? Because I thought the same thing in my notes for his.
Yeah, he was not a good defender at Gonzaga.
Okay, so I didn't feel that in these preseason games. I thought he had some nice weak side rotations. I liked the activity off the ball. He had a great possession guarding Eric Gordon, navigating a ball screen. He had a little bit of struggle with Grayson Allen, just a little bit, but yeah, I thought it was good. What I'm interested to see if it translates, he was a really good defensive rebounder for a wing in college that hasn't shown up in these two preseason games. One, he had 4 defensive rebounds. The other one, he didn't have any. But I think that would be another thing he could really add value. If he's a neutral defender, grabs 4 or 5 defensive rebounds, and then shoots the ball like he did, and then can also hit a floater, all of a sudden that's a steal for the Nuggets and where they're at, needing some of these guys to be steals with those draft picks.
Yeah, I've always loved the offensive, like off-ball skill set. It's just really, I did not think he'd be able to defend at an NBA level. If he can do that, then like he looks okay so far defensively, and that would be a real difference maker for Denver. Next up here, the Dallas guys. Do you have any quick thoughts on Dallas?
I will just say this, and I'm not trying to be negative. I watched the Mavs versus Real Madrid game, and I came away a little bit concerned with Derek Lively defensively in that game. Like there was just some possessions. He gets his hips turned right away. One of them, he got lost completely. There was a couple ones like he just wasn't. All this talk about Wemby and how he uses his length. I didn't think Lively was active with his length. One time he left the ball handler way too early before his teammate was able to recover. Now he did recover and get a block on one of those. It was interesting in terms of a guy who, I don't want to say I've pitched, but we talk about as what does Dallas need? A defender, rim protector, defensive rebounder, and to just catch lobs on the offensive end. And I thought he struggled a little bit in that game doing one of the most important aspects of that, which is defend ball screens and protect the rim.
Yep. No, look, I've always been from the jump here saying that he is going to be a project. He looks like a project, I think.
And listen, you won't find a bigger Omax Prosper fan than me. He got the start preseason game 1. I didn't think he looked great. They haven't started him since. I just wonder if, where that's going to go with him as well. I'm all in. I'm buying into that young man, just who he is and his work ethic and all of that. So I'm not saying this like long-term, but I wonder if pumping the brakes on these two rookies really contributing to a team that really needs to compete in the very competitive West this year is really that realistic.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Okay.
Cason Wallace.
Kaysen, yeah, he got hurt. He hurt his big
Today,
toe
yep.
in today's game. Yeah.
I was just going to say, all this stuff for me coming out, not just for me, for everybody, but was the defense. And, my notes from the 2 games I've watched, it was all about defense again with Kaysen. I thought he looked pretty good defensively. He has great hands and, can really be disruptive. So I thought a lot of the pre-draft defensive stuff that everybody was talking about has looked to translate so far.
Yep. I agree with that. The guy we haven't talked about in the top 10 other than Bilal is Anthony Black.
I had some notes.
Look, yeah, go ahead. Do you want to?
I didn't have a lot. The only thing was I thought Anthony Black could play a little bit off the ball just because I think he's a really intuitive and smart cutter. And in one of the games I watched, I thought he showcased that. Like that very small, not a real elaborate scouting report on Anthony Black. I was more watching that to watch Franz and Paolo and those guys. Franz was incredible in that game. But and they're another team that's going to be really fun to watch. I thought their defensive chemistry for that team was really, really good. It was really interesting. But yeah, those were my quick notes on Anthony Black.
I talked a little bit about Jarris on the last podcast. I don't really need to do that. So do you want to hop into the Bilal section of the show?
I love defense, Sam. So I would love to do this.
Okay. So while I set up, give me your early impressions on Bilal.
Yeah, I mean, this guy comes onto the scene out of nowhere in the process last year, and the defense has translated. So some of the stuff I wrote about him, great package of versatility with matchups, but a defensive playmaker, level of engagement and feel that you want, perfectly timed stunt recovers, pill switches, low man rotations. Like he was impressive because at his age, he had a defensive acumen that you just don't see, and he communicates. And I'm so glad you texted me this before we came on because I wrote all of these notes about his defense. And then you're like, Bryce, Bilal Coulibaly's defense is just ridiculous. I was like, perfect. We're seeing the same things. So let's show the listeners and the watchers as well.
All right. So we're going to dive into the tape here. 4 minutes left in the first. Bilal's guarding Brandon Miller here at the top of the key. Got to get used to using this pen again. Okay. So he's going to switch here. Quick on to Rozier. He's going to just like scramble all over the place is like kind of the easiest way to put this. Like he's not really even guarding anybody at a certain point in that possession. He's just kind of scrambling and like flying around and using his length, right? Like here he does a pretty good job of going out, making sure that he is closing out on a potentially wide open shooter, long, wide hands, uses that 7'2" wingspan to its fullest potential, makes it hard to get that pass out.
Yes. That's what I wanted to highlight. Just playing in that passing lane for would have been a quicker one more pass, allows his teammate to make the rotation, gives him an extra half second to get there.
What I'm kind of wondering here is if he's calling out like a switch, like, look, I can't hear what's happening, like where his man goes, this man goes here and then he flies down to this man here.
That looks like what should happen, right?
Yeah, if there's another reversal. By the way, Kyle Kuzma, look at how his body's angled, making it hard to get it to 44 here.
Yep.
Wide hands. He's going to have to throw like a bounce pass there over to 44, which is never ideal in terms of like a catch and shoot 3, right? So I think this is all just really good defensive fundamental action here. And yes, that is exactly what happens. As you notice, Tyus Jones sinks off onto this man. Why can't I draw? Who knows?
This is at 3:45 in the first quarter, by the way. So right around the 4-minute, 3:45 mark in the first quarter of the Hornets Wizards game.
Yep. And then we just see Bilal just go and shoot this pass, shoot this gap. Not even a passing lane. He just shoots the gap on Terry Rozier and is like, yep, I'm just going to take that ball. Like, it's probably a foul, but he's just like, I'm just going to go take that ball.
Yep.
This is mine.
Super aggressive.
Yep. Going to start the break. He's going to be so awesome on these like scrambled big rotations across the court. Again, Bilal top of the key, guarding Brandon Miller here. And Miller's going to go set like this little slip action, which is stuff that they ran all the time at. Oh, this is the same play. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I think we got the same clip.
What's going on here? What's happening?
People are critiquing your drawing skills in the chat, Sam.
Oh, they're horrible. I'm like I have like no drawing skills whatsoever. At some point, this play will end. I promise, guys. Okay, here we go. This is Bilal here, playing whatever this action is about to be.
Oh, this is the block.
And this is just absolutely sick. Just reading through, just rolling through this play again. Like, he's at the top here. They run this little, like, I don't know, what do you want to call that? Like a little mini, like, pin down?
Yeah,
almost
block to block, but it's just a screen to get the Bigs defender late to the ball screen.
Yes, exactly right.
And he does a good job here.
Not really.
He does a really good job here hugging up to his man to make an easier path for his teammate to navigate this screen.
Correct. It's exactly what I wanted to call out. He goes to the corner now. And this is not a wildly easy rotation, but he just reads it from the jump and he is just going to go. And that's what makes him so smart and intuitive defensively. Like, he just goes, and my God, good luck. Is that Amari Bailey? Like,
that is Bryce McGowan's, I believe.
Bryce McGowan's is who that is. Yeah, you're right. I mean, look at that length. He's just a wall at the rim. This was what people loved about him pre-draft, was the potential to be a real, like, weak side rim protector, defensive playmaker, all in one. And this is just absolutely sick.
And what I wanted to say is, like, this highlight's incredible, right? Like, this is what gets played on Twitter, but it's because he's consistently engaged in doing this all the time that he always puts himself in situations to then make a highlight play like this. He's always engaged. He didn't chase his man to the corner. Even the little thing he did there on the screen initially, all of it translates into just being a very impactful defender, especially at his age. And so he just does these things consistently. It's so impressive.
Totally agree with you. That is a true, like, absolute dude play on defense. So this is an inbounds play where he is guarding Brandon Miller again.
Yep.
Why won't my pen work? Okay. He's guarding Brandon Miller again here. Excellent drawing skills remain intact. He's going to get around this screen.
Ooh, yeah, this one was nice.
Just so incredibly well. Just look at the way that he is moving around this screening action here. What this play is Rozier coming underneath, basically trying to, like, force a switch here where Gafford has to take him.
Yep. And
thus, then Brandon Miller is going to be here to start, and then he's going to shoot back around for this thing, and then potentially have, I believe, Mark Williams rolling to the rim on a mismatch. So you're going to watch it play through. Just look at how he slides around that play. I don't know why Mark Williams didn't dive, because Washington communicated through that play super quickly. This is another point I wanted to make. I love the way that Washington defended in this game. I thought it was so good. I thought it was so polished and sharp. I think their communication was clearly outstanding. They fought through screens the whole time. I love how Tyus fights through this action so that they don't get the mismatch where Gafford has to shoot out onto him. And because of that, Mark Williams doesn't roll. Mark Williams ends up just popping after this screen into like the foul line extended area after Miller comes through. But again,
well, the other thing is because Bilal navigates it so well, Gafford doesn't have to show. And so Gafford is
yep,
able to stay in good position because Bilal here able to get that angle around the screen, but back in front of Miller with the contest and not fouling. That's an insanely impressive play of a off ball screen navigation.
yeah, for a teenager to do this is like not normal. This is a ridiculous defensive play to me. This just displays like he is a real all defense potential guy.
Yep.
Like straight up. There's no other way to phrase it. He is in this play.
Guarding Brandon Miller again.
Yep, guarding Brandon Miller. So he's in this corner here. And he's going to navigate just this little, it's almost like a twirl. It's not a twirl because there's not a second screen.
Ooh, I love that box out.
So do I. But he's just going to navigate this little, it's going to be a screen in the corner. Like almost, it's not like a little exchange, I guess, more than a screen. They navigate it well. He comes through to the opposite side, and then he just gets a body on Mark Williams.
I don't think, like, I realize he doesn't come down with the rebound, Sam. I get it. And I feel like some people are gonna be like, well, that was, do you know how often Mark Williams dunks this ball because the guy in Bilal's position doesn't rotate over? Gafford goes for the block and somebody on the weak side has to rotate. He doesn't get the rebound, but he gets inside of Mark Williams. He just deflects the ball, but it goes to a teammate. This is stuff that doesn't show up in box scores, but NBA coaches, scouts who were scouting him, this is stuff that people love. This is when people say winning basketball, this is the stuff that you're highlighting right here. This is the stuff that wins basketball games.
This is awesome. This is so awesome for him to get a body on Mark Williams and then get the tip out.
Yes.
Mark Williams is an enormous dude.
Yeah.
Like that is absolutely fantastic defensive play. He is here, and then he's just going to rotate down. He's going to contest. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why he didn't get a block for that, for what it's worth, but he didn't. He just kind of got a deflection, I guess. But I love the scramble instinctual rotation there. Yeah. Honestly, there's some breakdown here. There's some breakdown between him and Kuzma coming up the court that you can see.
Oh yeah, Kuzma's telling
neither of them are communicating who's going to take Brandon Miller, because Brandon has been Bilal's guy the whole first half, obviously. And this is at 47 seconds left in the first half. Eventually Kuzma is going to say, hey, like, Bilal, I need you to take him because I'm going to take Brandon here in the corner as we scramble to cover this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder why the cross match happened like that.
Not totally sure why that was a cross match in transition, especially with Kuzma being first one back and PJ clearly being the first one back. I frankly think that's like kind of a fuck up on Kuzma's part.
I would agree.
You would have to ask them, I think, for sure to know. Could be on Poole as well here, given that Tyus is there to pick up the ball. Poole maybe should be back there picking up his man, and then Bilal should be picking up like another trailer somewhere. It's one of Poole or Kuzma, though, that is making this mistake.
He does a good job playing with verticality here, though, and not giving, for as slight as his body is right now, he holds his ground against PJ Washington, I feel like pretty decent.
Yeah, totally agree. And this is just an incredible rotation to me. This is awesome. And you're 100% right. The physicality there, that's a block. Like, I don't know why they didn't give him a block there, but that is a block shot to me.
This one was interesting. What is he? I couldn't figure out what he's doing here, to be honest.
I think that this is at 7 minutes in the third quarter. So the next couple of possessions are kind of similar to this. I think that they're running like some sort of weird matchup zone here.
Okay.
As opposed to like pure man, because they started to get super aggressive, like up top on the ball. And I guess that maybe with like Mark trailing here, Gafford is still just like kind of high in the play. For people, trying to find Bilal, he's right here. But I think that that's what this is. I think this is like not traditional man to man.
Yeah.
So
Because he just leaves and goes.
yeah, because like in theory, if this is a ball screen, because this could be like a situation where they're calling out a pre-switch, right? Where they're saying like, we don't want Gafford on Brandon Miller. We want, or like, we also don't really want to run drop here. Maybe they're calling out a pre-switch, but if you're going to do that, then you're going to shoot him all the way over to this side then. And then you're going to have Gafford stay attached there and you're going to have Bilal come up here, right? But they don't really do that. That's what makes me think that this is like a weird matchup-y zone kind of play.
But Kuzma looks confused right now. Like Kuzma now looks like he's in no man's land.
But again, if you think of this as a zone, like look, you have the 3 back lines here. Bilal could be on the left side of the court. Kuzma could be the guy at the right, like top right side, right?
Or Kuzma just takes first pass from the top of the key. Sometimes if they go in tandem here, Kuzma just takes the next pass.
Right.
So
now you're purely looks like a zone now.
No, you're right. So maybe interesting.
Right?
It does. How does
and now it ends with Bilal just bottling up PJ Washington again with an awesome contain. Because again, like if he's guarding PJ, he's going to be between PJ and the like rim here. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be further back here, in my opinion. I think this is a zone, and I think that they're just like being aggressive and guarding in a zone here. And PJ or Bilal, for his part, does a fantastic job containing and then going up and contesting live. The strength part of that contain, like walling up on PJ, is what's so impressive to me.
That's what I was gonna say. He gets beat a little bit by PJ, but is able to get back in front, give his chest, and then change direction while taking some contact to at least contest and make it a difficult shot for PJ.
Yeah, it's really, really strong. Next up here, where is our guy? He's in the corner here at the top of the screen. There we go. And guarding Brandon Miller. And this is just an awesome rotation here.
This is the time he's just engaged at all times.
Yep. And it's interesting in terms of this action because he's not really the low man here. He's the strong side defender in the corner in this play. Tyus would typically be the low man here, where Tyus is going to have to be the one to tag. They're lucky enough to where they have just like bodies here, right? Like they just have a lot of bodies in the lane already. So like it's an easier assignment for Tyus. But this is just like pure instinct and scramble, right? For Bilal to come here and recognize that like Tyus is on the weak side and that Mark Williams is going to be wide open for this dunk if he doesn't make this play. This is pure instinct to me. There's not another way to put it. And for him to get this deflection, I mean, there are so few guys like tools wise that can get to this ball even. Like this is like reacting quicker than a guy who's 7'1" with that kind of length to get there and get that deflection. That's just such a sick play.
Yep.
And then here, final one. Bilal here, guarding Brandon Miller again. On ball. And then just another awesome scramble instinct, like read here. Like he is going to be one of the best scramble defenders in the NBA, in my opinion. This is, I don't think they're in that funky zone again. Do you?
No, I think why this is impressive is it would be an overhelp in some situations, but what he sees is, I believe it's like Kuzma just flails all the way back to half court. And so at that point, you just have to commit and put your team in rotation. And he does a good job. He gets his hands up, and just the awareness to see that Kuzma was completely out of the play and he needed to make the rotation. It ends up in a turnover.
Yep. I think that's a great call, Bryce. I think that he just reads this as, I need to step into this play. Like in theory, like Gafford should be the one, like Gafford should frankly probably be a little bit higher here, I think. But he realizes that Gafford is not higher, and he realizes that he just needs to make this rotation in order to cut off. Is that PJ Washington again?
I want to say yes, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. Yep. And PJ tries to throw this weird no-look pass into the corner. Shout out. Is that Poole or Tyus? That's Poole.
Oh, it is Poole. Good for Jordan. Good rotation.
Jordan, say whatever you want about Jordan Poole's defense here. He does a fantastic job playing both here.
Yeah, this is nice.
That's superb from Jordan Poole. Like he makes that play really, really tough on PJ, and he makes that rotation early. He makes this rotation here. He would be coming up, and then they'd have to communicate between Gafford and Bilal which player is able to make this X out here to the corner. I would guess that they'd prefer that to be Bilal. And yeah, I don't think it's probably just going to result in an open three, but because he's so big and so long, he rushes PJ and makes it so it's a turnover instead. This is just really good, really, really good defensive basketball, really good scramble instincts, really good rotational awareness from Coulibaly, and really good, engagement and just constantly knowing what's going on. Bilal looks like he's going to be an all defense caliber defender, in my opinion, already. Some of these rotations plus the tools he has, some of this is sick for somebody who is as young as he is.
That's the thing. And that's what I keep reminding myself with him, is how young he is, how quote unquote inexperienced he is with some of the high level basketball. And it stood out whenever he was playing with Mets 92. And now it's already showing out with the Wizards as well. I'm interested to see what the offensive usage is going to be. Jordan and Kyle Kuzma are going to get a lot of offensive usage with that starting lineup. And as we talked about before we recorded, that might be what's best for Bilal, is that he maybe isn't thrust into a role where he's asked to do a ton offensively, and he can just be magical on the defensive end. But that is sure impressive. And I'm excited to watch to see what he shows offensively, because in some of the usage he did get, I thought he looked pretty good. I think it was late in the third quarter of the game I watched. He got 4 straight possessions where he touched the ball. He got 2 paint touches, and I think hit 2 threes. So the foundational skill level offensively is there also.
I think that we are not going to get to Bryce's question of the week here.
Okay.
And look, like Bilal's going to have to figure out like what to be offensively at some point. And that's a real thing that we still don't have an answer to, I think, on Bilal as much as anything. But we've seen enough now to know he's going to be able to make an impact from day one on defense. I think he needs to play.
Yep.
Like truly.
I was worried watching, like, the question that came in my head is, they're going to prioritize this kid, right? Like, I feel like there's a 0% chance they don't, but I just was like, he's ready. To me, he's ready. Even if he makes your offense a little bit funky, it's okay. He's ready defensively, as we just highlighted. Let him figure out the offense. I can't imagine they're not going to prioritize him, but yeah, he's more ready than what I thought, if I'm being quite honest.
I think that's right. I think you just have to let him roll, and you have to let him go. Like, if he can just like back cut and make like a spot 3, he's going to be a valuable player. or
Yep.
not a valuable player, but like he's going to be able to be out there, and you're going to be able to get the developmental reps into him that you want for somebody that is still this young and he needs the reps. Like I assumed he'd spend most of this year in the G League when they drafted him. I don't think that's the case. I think he's going to play like genuine minutes for the Wizards.
And I just want to say real quick, my notes from his pre-draft, he does a really nice job with his off-ball movement and keeping proper spacing. So he's a guy who takes that feel that he has on the defensive end, he translates it to the offensive end as well. Even if he doesn't always make the shot, if he keeps good spacing, that helps the flow of the offense go. The ball's not going to stick in his hands. He's going to cut. He's going to get some offensive rebounds. And so I don't think he just completely tanks your offense, even as he does try to grow and figure out his skill set.
I think that's right. Bryce, do you have anything that you want to plug before we get out of here?
I want to ask you one question because I'm not going to live up to the movie hype of everybody else you've had, Sam. I'm just not. But it's been a busy weekend. Had a high school football game Friday. I've watched all this film all weekend, high school film, well, not college yet, but overseas, NBA, all of that. Here's my question. No, we're going to talk plenty about Chet moving forward. My question, I'm going to watch a movie with my wife tonight. The next few hours are solely dedicated to my wife now. The Gift or Totally Killer? Have you heard of both of these movies, and do you have a recommendation between the two?
So there are a few movies called The Gift. There's the one like from a while ago, and then there's the one with like Joel Edgerton. Which gift are we talking here?
So I believe it's from 2015 with, yes, Joel Edgerton.
Okay, so I saw that in theaters. That's like, did I see this in theaters? Yeah, I definitely saw this in theaters. Yeah. People like this movie. I didn't really love it. It's like, it's kind of fun and like twisty from what I remember, but I didn't love it. And again, I haven't seen this since it came out. Like I saw this in theaters.
Okay.
We watched Totally Killer over the weekend, my wife and I.
Okay.
I loved it, but I'm like a
Okay.
sucker for like these 80s, set movies that are like it's a, what vibe are you looking for? Are you looking for like twisty thriller, or are you looking for like fun, enjoyable, don't have to, think
so for the record,
too hard?
I hate watching movies in general. This is the whole love language thing that I have to provide. And quality time is one of my wife's top ones. I hate scary movies. I like thrillers, but I don't like gory, scary movies. But this one is, my impression is a little bit comedic thriller.
It's lighter
something.
tone, but gory is a way to put it.
Oh man.
I had a great time with it. Like I mean, look, it's like not one of my five favorite movies of the year or anything, but like I had a super fun time watching Totally Killer.
I hate gory stuff. I hate Halloween
one,
so much.
This one's got some of that for sure.
Can't wait.
So I would look at that. That'd be my pick. I enjoyed that more than I enjoyed The Gift, though. Okay. Personally, The Gift. People like The Gift, though. Like I might be off on this. Like maybe typically like movies like The Gift are movies that I like. But this one just didn't hit for me personally.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll let you know which one and report back.
No, wait. No. Time out. I'm thinking of The Box. Now I'm Googling this. The Box is a movie by, which is The Box? Is it The Box with like Cameron Diaz? Yeah, Cameron Diaz did this movie called The Box. It was directed by the guy that made like Donnie Darko. That's the one I didn't like.
Okay.
The Gift is, I don't remember The Gift at all, actually. I know I saw it, but I don't remember this. I think it was, This Is Fine, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I think it's like twisty thriller, not yeah. This is the one with Jason Bateman. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, this is good. This is actually good. Now that I think
Okay.
about it, but both are. This one's like a little bit like fucked up in terms of like thrillery. Like it's like kind of a head fuck. I think. Um, don't watch the box. The box is bad.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking of.
I'll make sure we scratch that one off the list.
You guys can understand why I got a little confused, right? The
Oh,
box,
yeah.
the gift,
And you're
they're
right. I
all
think there are like 7 the gifts or whatever, like if you Google it. So
right. Yeah, the other one that I know is the one by Sam Raimi with like Kate Blanchett, I think. Um, so yeah, there are a lot of these movies. Get more creative with your titles, Hollywood. Okay. Bryce, you have to go watch this movie. Whichever one you pick. My pick would be Totally Killer. I enjoyed
okay.
Totally Killer.
All right.
Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, real quick, Motor City Hoops on Twitter, Draft Digest for NBA draft content, and the Pistons Pulse is Detroit Pistons only podcast with Pistons beat writer for the Detroit Free Press, Omari Sankofa for the second, my guy. As always, enjoyed the heck out of this, Sam. I love when we bring in the video. That just adds an element that I really get into. That's, as you know, video breakdown is kind of my passion and something I love. So another great one, and I'm always excited to be here and can't wait to come back next week.
Yeah, we're gonna have a great time with these now that we can like really get into incorporating some video and doing some fun breakdown stuff. This is gonna be great. We're gonna have a great season here. Podcast schedule for this week. Let me get back to you on it. It might be Wednesday, Friday, might be a couple days, but I'm gonna try and go 3 times this week. I have to write 3 stories at some point in the next 2 days. So that will be fun. And then yeah, I think that's what I've got for you guys. So you will get a Nikola Topic breakdown though on the YouTube channel. I know that. It might be more like Wednesday, Thursday at this point, just given everything I've got on my schedule already for this week. But yeah, go and do all of that. For Bryce, Sam Vecini here. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. This has been the Game Theory Podcast. Remember, rate, review, subscribe to Everything in Sports Show. We will be back next week at some point, or this week at some point, with more. Until next time, we will talk soon. Bye.